Imagine possessing an inner fortress of strength, unshaken by chaos, indifferent to insults, and resilient in the face of adversity. Welcome to Be Stoic, where we uncover the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy and how it can transform your life today. In this video, we'll explore 7 actions a true Stoic would avoid at all costs, revealing how not doing certain things can be just as powerful as doing the right things. Stick around, because each of these 7 no-go behaviors comes with a compelling real-life story and a Stoic lesson that can empower you to live with greater clarity, courage, and peace. A true Stoic isn't born with steely nerves and unshakable virtue. They forge these qualities by deliberately avoiding habits that weaken their character. What are those habits? Perhaps you'll recognize some in your own life. From complaining about everyday troubles to seeking constant approval, we'll see why Stoics steer clear of these behaviors and how doing so leads to freedom. As Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, advised, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, it's not about preaching virtue, it's about living it. So if you're ready to challenge yourself and build an unbreakable mindset, let's dive into the 7 things a true Stoic refuses to do. And if you find value here, don't forget to hit subscribe for more insights on living a Stoic life. Now let's begin our journey with the first toxic habit that Stoics diligently avoid. 1. Complaining and playing the victim. Why me? This is so unfair. Words you'll never hear from a true Stoic. Complaining about circumstances and indulging in a victim mentality is the first action a Stoic would avoid at all costs. Life will hand us hardship, injustice, and pain. The Stoic knows that whining about it only adds to the suffering. Instead of lamenting what they can't change, Stoics channel their energy toward what they can change, their own thoughts and actions. Marcus Aurelius, who faced war, plague, and betrayal as emperor, put it bluntly: "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." He understood that our perspective shapes our reality. Epictetus, another Stoic sage, echoed this wisdom: "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well." In other words, embrace reality instead of resenting it. Complaining is wasted breath. Acceptance and adaptive action are the Stoics' answers to misfortune. Consider the real-life example of Jessica Cox, the world's first licensed armless pilot. Born without arms, Jessica could have easily succumbed to self-pity or constantly complained about the hand life dealt her. Instead, she chose the Stoic path of acceptance and action. Using her feet for tasks most of us do with hands, she learned to drive, to scuba dive, even to earn a black belt in Taekwondo. And in 2008, after 3 years of grueling training, she achieved her pilot's certificate, flying an airplane with nothing but her 2 feet on the controls. Jessica refused to see herself as a victim of fate. Rather than asking, "Why me?" she asked, "What can I do to thrive despite this?" A profoundly Stoic response. Her story exemplifies how far acceptance and determination can take us. She didn't waste time blaming life for lacking arms. She invested time in adapting and mastering skills to live a full life. Stoicism teaches that we should differentiate between what is within our control and what is not. This is the famous Stoic dichotomy of control. External events, like the circumstances of our birth or sudden crises, lie outside our control. Our attitude and effort, however, lie firmly within it. By not complaining about externals, Stoics free themselves to focus on their own responses. As Seneca observed, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality," meaning that dwelling on misfortunes only magnifies them. Complaining is essentially suffering in imagination, rehearsing our grievances again and again. Stoics choose to drop that script. They accept reality and then get to work improving what they can. This doesn't mean a Stoic is passive or complacent with injustice. It means they refuse to wallow. They take constructive action instead of pessimistic grumbling. In our modern lives, we can follow this example. Next time you catch yourself about to complain, whether it's about heavy traffic, a difficult boss, or bad luck, pause and remember Jessica's story. Ask, what can I do right now to improve this situation or my mindset about it? It could be as simple as adjusting your plan, finding a lesson in the setback, or practicing patience. By not voicing that complaint, by not indulging the victim narrative, you reclaim power. You become an active problem solver rather than a passive sufferer. As Epictetus advised, welcome events as they happen. This is the path to peace and effectiveness. A true Stoic avoids complaining because it stalls growth. Instead, they practice gratitude for what they still have and channel their energy into purposeful action. In short, don't complain about the rain. Learn to dance in the rain, or better yet, figure out how to build an umbrella. By refusing to complain or play the victim, you build resilience. You stand firm like an oak in a storm. Now, with that foundation of acceptance laid, let's move to the next toxic habit Stoics diligently avoid, one that ensnares so many of us today. 2. Seeking external validation and approval. Do you find yourself craving the approval of others, constantly checking for likes or tailoring your decisions to please the crowd? A true Stoic would see this as a dangerous trap and avoid it at all costs. Seeking external validation, whether it's praise, popularity, or the need to be liked by everyone, is a sure way to hand over your inner peace to the whims of others. Stoics cherish their inner freedom, and nothing compromises that freedom more than becoming a slave to public opinion. Marcus Aurelius, who had seen the hollowness of fame firsthand, warned, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Think about that. We are born and die as the only constant companions to ourselves, yet we often defer to others' judgments about our lives. The Stoic calls this folly. Epictetus drove the point home by advising that if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, don't be afraid to go against the grain of popularity when you know your path is right. Stoics understand that chasing validation is a never-ending race, one that leads you away from your true self and toward anxiety. At the heart of Stoicism is the idea that your worth is determined by your character, not by external applause. Fame, approval, criticism, these are externals, not truly in your control. What is in your control is living with integrity and doing what you believe is right. Seneca wrote, "I will keep to the path which I think right. Then let come what may, be it what men reckon good or evil." The Stoic focuses on being virtuous rather than being popular. After all, public opinion is fickle and often misled. One day you're a hero, the next day a villain, sometimes without any change in you at all. Basing your self-worth on such a shaky foundation is perilous. That's why Stoics avoid the constant hunger for approval. Consider the story of Colonel John Boyd, a legendary U.S. Air Force fighter pilot and strategist. Boyd was known for asking young officers a pointed question: to be somebody or to do something. He explained that in life you have two paths. One path, to be somebody, is to seek titles, promotions, and applause, to go along with what's popular and polish your image. The other path, to do something, is to focus on your mission and principles, even if it means no one sings your praises. Boyd himself lived by the latter. He often clashed with superiors and refused to compromise his tactical ideas just to climb the ranks. This likely cost him a general's star, but he didn't mind. He famously told his protege, "If you decide you want to do something, you may not get promoted, but you won't have to compromise yourself. To be or to do, which way will you go?" Boyd chose to do. He revolutionized military aviation and left a legacy, even though he never became a household name. His integrity mattered more than a bigger title. This modern story beautifully illustrates the Stoic ideal: substance over show. Boyd avoided the shallow temptation of external validation, being somebody, in favor of living true to his values, doing something meaningful. In today's terms, following Boyd's and the Stoics' advice might mean pursuing a career you're passionate about rather than one that simply impresses others. It could mean speaking up for what's right, even if it's unpopular, or simply not needing to broadcast every achievement for accolades. For example, think of someone who quits a high-paying, prestigious job that was making them miserable to start their own humble business aligned with their values. Society might raise an eyebrow, but a Stoic would applaud the courage to live authentically, or consider those who take breaks from social media for their mental health. They are practicing a form of Stoicism, freeing themselves from the addiction to likes and the comparison game. A Stoic finds contentment in approving of themselves, knowing in their heart that they are acting rightly. Marcus Aurelius advised himself in his journal, which became Meditations. Don't worry about what others think of you, as long as you're doing what's just and good. Focus on your opinion of the person you see in the mirror. Does it align with your principles? If yes, that is enough. If no, no amount of praise from outside will fill that void. In practical terms, to live this Stoic teaching, remind yourself, the crowd is not always correct, and their applause is not always a sign you're on the right path, nor is their criticism always a sign you're on the wrong one. Seek truth and virtue, not popularity. By avoiding the compulsion to seek validation, you gain an incredible gift, self-respect and independence. You become the author of your own life, rather than an actor reading lines written by others' expectations. The Stoic stands tall and says, I know who I am and what I stand for, whether anyone is watching or not. Let's carry that confidence forward now to the third action a Stoic steers clear of, something that often stops us from reaching our potential. 3. Fear-based inaction and procrastination. We all know that feeling. An opportunity arises or a challenge confronts us, and fear whispers, not now, maybe never. Procrastination and inaction born of fear is the next pitfall a true Stoic strives to avoid. Whether it's delaying a difficult conversation, hesitating to start a dream project, or failing to stand up for what's right, giving in to fear can rob us of our purpose and progress. The Stoics understood that courage is a cornerstone of virtue. Without it, the other virtues, wisdom, justice, temperance, cannot fully flourish. So when fear and self-doubt cause paralysis, the Stoic mindset is to act, and act now, in alignment with one's values. Philosophical backing. The Stoics viewed life as fleeting, an unpredictable gift that could be taken at any moment. Seneca urged, it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. In his moral letters, he implored us to seize the day and not defer living well. Epictetus, ever direct, asked his students, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? This powerful question cuts to the heart of procrastination. Waiting for the right moment often means waiting forever. Epictetus warns that if we keep bypassing the call of reason and duty, we risk living and dying as merely ordinary, never realizing our potential. In Stoic thought, every moment is an opportunity to do good and to improve oneself. Postponing that out of fear or laziness is considered a tragic misuse of time. Moreover, Stoicism teaches that fear, especially fear of failure or fear of discomfort, is largely an illusion to be overcome. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Procrastination is a form of never beginning to live. It's putting off our lives until a tomorrow that may not come. To counteract this, Stoics practice what's called premeditatio malorum, a premeditation on worst-case scenarios. By calmly envisioning what you're afraid of, failure, embarrassment, rejection, you often realize that even if it happens, you can endure it and learn from it. Thus, fear loses its fangs. The Stoic then proceeds to take courageous action without the weight of catastrophic dread on their shoulders. Let's bring in a real-life scenario. Picture a crowded subway station in New York City, one January afternoon in 2007. a young man suffers a seizure and falls onto the train tracks. A train is barreling down. In the crowd, dozens gasp in horror, frozen by fear. But one man, Wesley Autry, moves. This 50-year-old construction worker, with two young daughters by his side, leaps onto the tracks in the path of the oncoming train. With only seconds to act, Autry presses the convulsing man down into a drainage trench between the rails and covers him with his own body. The subway train screeches over them, so close that grease from the train's undercarriage smears Autry's cap. When the train comes to a halt, unbelievably, neither man is harmed. Autry's split-second courage saved a life. Now, what does this have to do with Stoicism and procrastination? Wesley Autry's instinctive heroism is a dramatic example of overcoming the paralysis of fear. Most bystanders hesitated, an understandable human reaction, but in critical moments, hesitation can be fatal. Autry later shrugged off accolades by saying he just saw someone who needed help and did what I felt was right. He didn't wait for someone else, didn't calculate the odds or seek permission. He acted from virtue, in this case compassion and courage, immediately. In our lives, thankfully, we may not often face split-second life or death decisions, but we do face pivotal moments that define us. Do I speak up when I witness wrongdoing? Do I finally start that business I've dreamed of? Do I apologize first to mend a relationship? In each of these, there is a train of time bearing down, and if we lie on the tracks of indecision too long, the chance is gone. The antidote to fear-based inaction is twofold: courage and urgency. Stoics remind themselves that life's length is uncertain, so the best time to do good or improve oneself is now. They also train to tolerate discomfort and risk, understanding that failing or suffering is not the worst outcome. Often, the worst outcome is avoiding challenges, and thus never growing. There's a famous Stoic exercise. At dawn, Marcus Aurelius would tell himself, "I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for?" He was steeling himself against the pull of comfort, staying in bed, and reminding himself that taking action is his very purpose. In modern practice, avoiding procrastination might mean adopting a mindset of do it now for even small tasks, as training for bigger ones. If a Stoic knows they should exercise for their health, they avoid the "I'll start next week" trap. They put on their shoes today. If a Stoic manager needs to give difficult feedback to an employee, they won't wait months dreading an uncomfortable talk. They address it respectfully at the next opportunity. The more we push ourselves to act despite butterflies in our stomach, the more we expand our comfort zone and weaken fear's hold. Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in spite of fear. By avoiding the habit of inaction, the Stoic turns potential energy into kinetic achievement. As the philosopher Seneca wrote, "While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away." Don't let fear steal your time. Start before you're ready. Step forward while others stand still. Even if you stumble, you're moving, learning, and living, which is far better than being stuck in regret. The next time you feel fear chaining you from doing something important, think of Wesley Autry jumping onto those tracks. Think of Epictetus asking you, "How long will you wait?" Then, muster even a scrap of courage and do what must be done. This is how a Stoic refuses to let fear govern their life. Now that we've seen the Stoics' resolve in taking action, let's turn to another emotion that a Stoic handles with extreme caution. It's one that can burn lives down if left unchecked: anger. Fourth, indulging in anger and hatred. Anger, it erupts like a volcano, often leaving destruction in its wake. To feel anger is human, but to indulge it, to act out of blind rage or nurse long-term hatred, is something a Stoic works hard to avoid. Why? Because Stoics recognize that anger is a temporary madness. In a flash of fury, we can destroy relationships, make irreversible decisions, or even compromise our own integrity. The Stoics compared uncontrolled anger to a wildfire. Once sparked, it consumes everything, and often hurts the angry person most of all. Marcus Aurelius, a man who commanded armies and surely had reasons to be angry at traitors or enemies, observed calmly, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" Think about that. The thing that made us angry is usually fleeting or fixable, but the things we do in anger, harsh words, violence, vengeful plots, can cause lasting harm. Seneca, who wrote an entire essay on anger, called anger the most destructive passion. He noted cases from history where anger led to murder, war, and the downfall of both innocent and guilty. His advice as a Stoic was clear: do everything you can to delay or diffuse anger, rather than act on it. The greatest remedy for anger is delay, he said, meaning take a pause, step back, and let the flames cool before you do anything. Stoicism places great emphasis on temperance or self-control. Emotions themselves aren't banned in Stoicism. Even the sage feels twinges of anger or sadness. But Stoics seek to control their response to emotions through reason. Anger, in particular, is seen as a sign that our expectations met reality, and we didn't like the outcome. Epictetus would say, if someone betrays you and you become enraged, it's because you expected never to be betrayed. An unrealistic expectation in an imperfect world. The Stoic reframes, okay, I've been wronged. How do I respond in line with virtue, with justice, wisdom, self-control, rather than in line with destructive impulse? This mental shift can transform anger into more constructive feelings, perhaps determination to address an injustice calmly, or resolve to forgive if appropriate. Hatred, sustained anger over time, is even more corrosive. It's like drinking poison daily and expecting someone else to die. Stoics understand that holding on to hatred is letting your adversary live rent-free in your mind, as the saying goes. It cedes them power over your mood and actions. Thus, practicing forgiveness, or at least letting go of resentment, is a Stoic habit, not necessarily to absolve others, but to liberate oneself from the chains of hatred. One of the most inspiring modern exemplars of controlling anger is Nelson Mandela. Here was a man imprisoned for 27 years, unjustly, under harsh conditions. Many of his peers in the struggle against apartheid understandably emerged from prison bitter, seeking revenge. Yet Mandela took a Stoic-like approach. He famously forgave his captors and oppressors and focused on reconciliation. Upon his release and subsequent presidency, Mandela invited one of his former prison guards, who had shown him small kindnesses, to his inauguration ceremony as an honored guest. He even had lunch with the prosecutor who had tried to have him executed, treating him with respect. These gestures were not just political theater, they were reflections of Mandela's inner victory over hatred. As he put it, resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. Mandela decided not to drink that poison. By letting go of anger, he was able to lead South Africa out of the darkness of apartheid without a bloodbath of vengeance. His capacity to forgive astonished the world and spared his nation further cycles of violence. Mandela's attitude mirrors the Stoic ideal. He mastered his anger and turned it into something powerful: forgiveness, compassion, and constructive action. Instead of revenge, he pursued justice and unity. This is not to say Mandela never felt anger. Surely he did, but he chose not to feed it. He didn't let hatred dictate his actions. As a result, he became an icon of peace and moral leadership. How can we apply this in our comparatively smaller spheres? First, recognize when anger is rising in you. Pay attention to the physical and mental signals, the racing heartbeat, the spinning thoughts of how dare they. When you sense that, pause. Remember Seneca's advice. Delay is the best remedy. Take a few deep breaths, walk away for a moment if you can. Remind yourself, if I act now in anger, I'll likely do something I regret. Use reason. Ask, what exactly am I angry about? What outcome do I want? If you're angry at disrespect, yelling or lashing out violently won't earn respect. Calm, assertive dialogue might. If you're angry at a wrongdoing, retaliating in kind could make you a wrongdoer too. Better to respond with measured justice, for example through legal or professional channels, or even forgiveness if appropriate. Marcus Aurelius would reflect that people who do wrong are like people who are blind. They just don't see clearly that they're doing wrong, otherwise they wouldn't do it. This reflection can sometimes turn anger into pity or understanding. It softens the heart just enough to prevent a destructive reaction. Another Stoic tactic: remember your own flaws. Marcus wrote, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" This creates humility. It's hard to stay furiously angry at someone's mistake when you recall you've made similar mistakes. Consider also the consequences of anger. How many relationships have we damaged or opportunities lost because of harsh words said in temper? Recalling past scenarios where anger led to regret can serve as a powerful deterrent in the heat of the moment. As Aurelius observed, the cost of anger far outweighs the benefit. Rarely has anyone said, "I'm glad I got really angry and handled it that way." Usually it's the opposite. "I wish I'd kept my cool." By avoiding indulging anger, you don't become emotionless, you become effectively emotional. You still feel, but you ride the emotions, they don't ride you. The Stoic goal is a kind of equanimity, not a lack of passion, but a balance, like a seasoned captain steering the ship through a storm, not letting the waves capsize it. When others rage, the Stoic responds with level-headed resolve. When others hate, the Stoic either works to correct injustices rationally, or if nothing can be done, releases the hate and moves on, refusing to be chained to the past. In sum, a true Stoic avoids giving anger the keys to their mind. They respond rather than react. They remember that vengeance and spite can enslave you as surely as iron chains. By choosing patience, forgiveness, or at least cold-headed strategy over hot fury, Stoics not only prevent many personal disasters, they also model a powerful kind of strength. As the saying goes, he who angers you, conquers you. The Stoic will not be easily conquered from within. You have that power too, the power to take a beat, take control, and choose a better response. Imagine how much more peaceful our homes, workplaces, and communities could be if more people did the same. Let's carry this spirit of thoughtful restraint into our next Stoic avoidance, which is closely related to anger, the careless or cruel words that so often accompany it, and even the idle chatter that does no good. 5. Gossiping and speaking ill of others. Few things are as tempting and common as gossip, talking negatively about others behind their backs, spreading rumors or reveling in scandal. And yet, a true Stoic avoids gossip and slander like a plague of the character. Why? Because Stoics value integrity and focus. Engaging in idle gossip not only harms others, often unfairly, it also diminishes your own character and wastes precious time that could be spent on more meaningful things. Stoics also understand the power of words. Once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Malicious or thoughtless speech can wound others deeply and stir up needless conflict, disturbing the tranquility of your own mind as well. The Stoic approach to speech is captured well by Epictetus's guideline. Let silence be your general rule, or say only what is necessary and in few words. This doesn't mean Stoics take a vow of silence, but it means they speak with purpose and virtue. If words are not improving the conversation or contributing something true and kind, a Stoic would rather hold their tongue. The Stoics classified gossip and slander as forms of injustice. After all, it's unjust to speak ill of someone without giving them a chance to defend themselves or to erode their reputation out of sport or envy. Moreover, gossip often involves things that are outside our control, like other people's private lives or choices, which Stoics train themselves not to be preoccupied with. Seneca advised that we should examine not just what we say about others, but what we allow ourselves to listen to. He said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you, and do not entertain those who maliciously tear others down." Hearing gossip without objecting tacitly endorses it. So a Stoic cultivates an environment, as much as possible, that is not fertile ground for nasty rumors and backbiting. Stoics also know that indulging in gossip or harsh speech pollutes one's own mind with negativity and distraction. It's hard to have a clear, calm mind when it's tangled in he said, she said drama, or the cheap thrill of someone else's misfortune. Let's illustrate this with a scenario that, while simple, shows the Stoic approach. Imagine a workplace where gossip is rampant. Everyone talks about the new manager's quirks, speculates about which co-worker might get laid off next, and shares whispers about who in the office might be dating whom. It's a toxic environment. Distrust and anxiety simmer under the surface. But there's one employee, let's call her Anna, who chooses a different path. When colleagues try to draw her into gossip, she either stays neutral or gently steers the conversation elsewhere. If someone starts bad-mouthing a teammate's mistakes, Anna might respond with something like, "I'm sure they're doing their best. We all have tough days." She's not sanctimonious or scolding about it. She just doesn't feed the rumor mill. Over time, people notice that Anna is trustworthy. She never breaches confidences or speaks ill of anyone. Co-workers find they can confide in her without worry that it will become tomorrow's lunchroom topic. Eventually, even the gossips learn that gossiping around Anna isn't satisfying. She doesn't give the juicy reactions or join in, so those conversations die out quickly when she's present. This may not sound as dramatic as jumping in front of a train or forgiving 27 years of imprisonment, but in daily life, it's profoundly important. By avoiding gossip, Anna becomes a pillar of integrity in her office. Perhaps because of this, when a promotion opportunity comes, management notices her professionalism and the respect she quietly commands. They know she won't stir drama. Instead, she often diffuses it. In this way, avoiding gossip not only preserves her character, it tangibly benefits her career and relationships. It's said that character is what you do when you think no one is watching. Gossip happens when we assume the subject isn't watching or won't find out, but we are watching ourselves, and we feel the sting of acting below our own moral standards. Stoic practices. How does one avoid gossip in practical terms? First, adopt a personal rule akin to a modern proverb. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. Challenge yourself to be interested in ideas and solutions more than in who's doing what. If a conversation veers into gossip, you can redirect by saying something positive about the person being discussed or by bringing up another topic altogether. Sometimes, simply not providing an audience is enough. Gossip requires listeners, so by not being one, you starve it. You can also set boundaries. "I'm not comfortable talking about X when they're not here to share their side," is something a Stoic might politely say. Epictetus also advised to speak only when you have something worth saying. This implies thinking before speaking. A Stoic might use a mental checklist before words leave their lips. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? These are parallel to the famous triple filter attributed to Socrates, not a Stoic, but a huge influence on Stoicism. Truth, goodness, and usefulness. Most gossip will fail one or all of those filters. For instance, is it true? Gossip is often based on hearsay or exaggeration. Is it kind? Rarely. Gossip tends to highlight the negative. Is it useful? Telling a third party about someone's personal failings has no constructive value. It's just entertainment at someone's expense. If your words don't pass these gates, better to keep them in. Another aspect is refraining from cruel humor or sarcasm at others' expense. Stoics can certainly have a sense of humor, but not the kind that cuts people down. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to be straightforward and kind in all dealings, and that includes speech. The aim is to speak in a way that benefits oneself and others, or not speak at all. What about listening to gossip? As Seneca implied, the company we keep matters. A Stoic might gently change the subject or, if appropriate, defend the absent person. I think if they were here, they'd explain it this way. If gossip persists in a friend group or workplace, and one has the ability, a Stoic might address it openly, saying how it undermines trust. That takes courage, but Stoicism is about having the courage to uphold virtue, even if it bucks social pressure. By avoiding gossip and negative speech, you cultivate a reputation for honesty and kindness. People know you won't betray their confidences or speak unfairly about them. This leads to deeper, more authentic relationships, exactly the kind of fellowship Stoics cherish. Stoicism isn't about being an isolated monk. Marcus and Seneca spoke often about the importance of community and being there for others. Moreover, you preserve your own mental clarity. Filling our minds with petty scandals and criticisms is like filling a beautiful, clean lake with trash. The Stoic keeps their mental waters clear by refusing to dump gossip into it. In that clarity, there's more room for creative ideas, for personal reflection, and for focusing on one's own improvements. In short, a Stoic's words are guided by prudence and goodwill. They avoid gossip because it's a misuse of their voice and a disservice to their ethos. In doing so, they set themselves apart in a world hungry for gossip. As the Roman poet Horace said, "Mix a little kindness with your dealings, and the rest will become easier." The Stoic would add, "Mix in discretion and sincerity too. Then you'll rarely regret what you said, and you'll find others trust and respect you more." By speaking only what is true and necessary, the Stoic builds a fortress of credibility. Now, let's turn to another appetite that Stoicism teaches us to keep in check, not of words, but of worldly things. In a society obsessed with more, the Stoic stands apart by knowing when enough is enough. 6. Greed and excess, chasing more than you need. The world often tells us that more is better, more money, more luxuries, more status symbols, but a true Stoic is deeply wary of greed and excess. Accumulating wealth or enjoying comforts isn't inherently evil, but becoming attached to them, or letting the pursuit of them rule your life, is something Stoicism warns against. A Stoic would avoid the endless chase of material excess at all costs because it can distract from virtue, create anxiety, and, ironically, lead to a sense of inner poverty even amidst external riches. The Stoics classified things like wealth, possessions, and pleasure as indifferent, meaning not good or bad in themselves, only in how we use them. They drew a sharp line between needs and wants. The Stoic ideal is captured well by Seneca's bold statement, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Read that again. If you're always hungry for more, no matter how much you have, you live in a state of lack. Your mindset is one of scarcity and dissatisfaction. Conversely, someone of modest means but who wants for nothing is truly rich in contentment. Seneca himself was a wealthy advisor to the emperor, but he practiced periods of simple living, wearing rough clothes and eating little, to remind himself that he could be happy with very little. This was training against greed, a way to immunize his mind against the fear of losing wealth. Epictetus was born a slave with no possessions at all, and later as a philosopher he taught that freedom comes from needing very little. If you can say, "I don't need that," about most things, then advertisers, peer pressure, or envy have no power over you. You're free. By contrast, if shiny things or the latest status symbols stir your desire, you become a slave to those desires. Stoicism places the highest value on inner freedom, so anything that jeopardizes that, like unchecked avarice or addiction to luxury, is seen as a threat to one's well-being. The Stoics also tie this to the virtue of temperance or moderation. Doing nothing to excess was a common ancient maxim. The Oracle of Delphi said, "Nothing in excess." Stoics apply this not just to behavior, but to desires. Wanting a comfortable life is fine. Insisting on absolute luxury at all times is a recipe for misery. Enjoy a fine meal or a nice home if you have it, but be ready and willing to live with plain food or a small room without distress. That readiness is what keeps you internally unconquered by fortune's ups and downs. A modern example of shunning greed comes from a billionaire, who made headlines for doing something profoundly stoic in spirit. Yvon Chouinard, the founder of the outdoor clothing company Patagonia. In 2022, at age 83, Yvon did what few tycoons would. He gave away his entire company to serve a cause greater than profit. Instead of selling Patagonia or taking it public for a multi-billion-dollar payday, he transferred ownership to a trust and a non-profit organization dedicated to fighting climate change. As of now, Earth is our only shareholder, the company declared. This move ensured that roughly $100 million in profits each year will go to environmental initiatives rather than enriching shareholders. Yvon Chouinard explicitly said he was horrified to be listed as a billionaire in Forbes. It pissed him off because excessive wealth was never his aim. He enjoys simple pleasures like surfing and fishing and has always lived modestly, despite his financial success. In essence, Chouinard saw extreme wealth as a responsibility to deploy for good, not as treasure to hoard. By relinquishing his company, he demonstrated detachment from greed and a commitment to the greater good. This real act echoes Stoic principles loudly. Wealth is only worthwhile if used virtuously, otherwise it's a burden. Think of the freedom in Chouinard's action. He will likely live out his days the same as before, unaffected personally by this huge giveaway, because money beyond a certain point didn't improve his happiness. Meanwhile, he's liberated from the complexities and compromises of business ownership and has placed his life's work in service of the planet. In a very Stoic way, he showed that having enough and knowing when to say enough is powerful. The Stoic approach to material things is appreciation without addiction. Enjoy what you have, work hard for what you need, but remain mindful that none of it is truly yours forever. Fortune can take your money, house, status, even loved ones at any time. Memento mori, remember you will die, and remember everything external is transient. By frequently reminding themselves of this, Stoics avoid falling into complacency or greed. They practice gratitude for what they have rather than constantly yearn for what they don't. When you are grateful, you experience a sense of fullness. When you are greedy, you experience emptiness that no amount of stuff can fill. Practically, to avoid greed and excess, a Stoic might set personal limits. For example, if financially able, you might decide, I'll live comfortably, but I'll give any income above X amount to charitable causes or to helping others. This can prevent lifestyle inflation, where your desires balloon with your earnings. Or even if you're not wealthy, you practice simplicity, periodically disconnect from shopping and consumerism to enjoy free pleasures, nature, reading, time with family. You distinguish between wants and needs. Do I need a new phone because the old one broke? Or am I just feeling envy because a new model came out? Stoics interrogate their impulses like that. Another Stoic exercise. When you find yourself coveting something, imagine life after obtaining it. Does it truly solve all your problems, or after a short high, will you likely just start coveting the next thing? Most of us know the answer. The novelty fades, and we move on to the next desire. The Stoic short-circuits this hedonic treadmill by saying, I have enough. I lack nothing essential. More will not make me a better or happier person. In fact, chasing more might cause stress, long hours, debt, neglecting relationships. So why chase it? Stoics also value generosity as an antidote to greed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." Using wealth or resources to help others echoes longer than any luxury you keep to yourself. A Stoic avoids excess consumption because they prefer to invest in things of enduring value, knowledge, community, virtue. Money is just a tool for these higher aims. Lose track of that, and you become, in Seneca's view, a miserably poor rich man. We can see this wisdom reflected in minimalist movements today, or those who downshift from high-powered careers to simpler lives. After burning out, many realize a high salary wasn't worth the damage to their soul or family. By scaling back, living with less, they actually gain more peace. That's Stoicism in action, prioritizing inner richness over outer riches. Avoiding greed doesn't mean shunning success or living in poverty. Many Stoics were successful in their fields. It means not letting success own you. Acquire and enjoy material goods with the awareness that they're temporary and secondary. The primary goods are the virtues you cultivate and the good you do. As Seneca said, money is the servant, not the master. If a Stoic finds themselves overly upset at the prospect of losing some comfort or asset, it's a signal to practice loosening that attachment. By rejecting greed and excessive luxury, the Stoic finds contentment. There's a profound calm in enough. Your happiness doesn't swing wildly with the stock market or the latest gadgets. You become self-sufficient, and paradoxically, that often leads to greater prosperity of a sustainable kind, because you're making wise decisions, not impulsive ones out of envy or fear. But whether fortune gives or takes, the Stoic remains steady, grounded in the knowledge that true wealth lies in having few wants. There is an old Stoic analogy: life is like a banquet. Enjoy the dishes as they are passed, but don't grasp too eagerly, and be ready for the platter to stop coming your way. Our Stoic has tasted this wisdom and is not intoxicated by excess. Now, at last, we turn to the final action on our list, a culmination of many principles we've discussed. Staying true to one's principles and avoiding the pitfall of hypocrisy or moral compromise. 7. Betraying one's principles, hypocrisy and dishonesty. The final action a true Stoic would avoid at all costs is perhaps the most important of all: betraying their own principles. This includes hypocrisy, saying one thing and doing another, and any form of dishonesty or moral compromise that violates their conscience. For a Stoic, integrity is the highest virtue. All the philosophical understanding, all the talk of ethics, means nothing if it isn't translated into consistent action. Thus, a Stoic strives never to do that which they know is wrong, even if it's tempting, even if they could get away with it. They avoid making excuses for bad behavior in themselves. In short, they refuse to sell out their values no matter the short-term gain. The word Stoic often conjures the image of someone unflappable, but at its core, Stoicism is a deeply ethical philosophy. The Stoics believed that virtue is the only true good. So to compromise virtue, to do something unjust, cowardly, intemperate or deceitful, is to harm the only thing that really matters: your character. As Marcus Aurelius put it, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This straightforward rule is a guiding light. It sounds simple, but in practice, life will test us with countless situations where doing the right thing is hard, or where lying and cutting corners could be to our advantage. The Stoic has to be prepared for those tests and treat them as opportunities to prove their virtue. Stoicism also emphasizes self-honesty. Marcus often chided himself in his meditations to not be Caesarified, corrupted by power, and to keep his philosophy not just in words but in deeds. He reminded himself to waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. This is a call to authenticity. Live your values, don't just debate them. Every time we act contrary to what we know is right, we create internal discord, a rift in the soul. Over time, that erodes self-respect and inner peace. Epictetus used to say that a philosopher should never blame others or even external circumstances for their behavior. They take full responsibility. If you fall short, own it and correct it, but don't rationalize it away or blame the way the world is. Many Stoics, like Cato the Younger, preferred to suffer personal loss than to violate their principles. Cato famously chose suicide rather than live under what he saw as the tyranny of Julius Caesar, because capitulating would betray his republican principles. While that is an extreme example, it shows the level of seriousness with which Stoics take integrity, more valuable than even life itself in some cases. Consider a modern figure like whistleblowers or truth-tellers in corrupt environments. Take Catherine Gunn, a British translator for intelligence services. In 2003, she leaked a confidential memo revealing an illegal US-UK spying operation intended to coerce UN diplomats during the run-up to the Iraq War. She did this because her conscience screamed that it was wrong. She risked her career and freedom. She was arrested for breaching the Official Secrets Act to stand by her principle of truth and justice. In essence, she refused to be complicit in deception, or think of someone like Honest Abe Lincoln, not a Stoic per se, but embodying Stoic-like integrity, walking miles to return a few cents of overcharge. These stories endure because they exemplify steadfast honesty when one could easily fudge. On a more everyday level, consider a small business owner who finds out about an accounting error in their favor, a client who accidentally paid twice, perhaps. The easy route is to say nothing and keep the money. No one might ever know. But a Stoic's internal moral compass would ache at that. Doing the right thing by returning the money aligns with their principle of justice and honesty. They do it not for praise, the client might not even notice the error to begin with, but because they would know they kept ill-gotten gains. That alone is sufficient reason to act with integrity. As that famous saying goes, integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. The Stoic adds, especially when no one is watching, because that's when it counts the most. Hypocrisy, the do as I say, not as I do syndrome, is something Stoics strive to root out in themselves. They avoid pontificating about virtue if they aren't sincerely trying to live it. This humbleness is why Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is so full of self-admonishments. He was constantly checking himself, not others. Stoics prefer to lead by example rather than lecture. They would avoid, for instance, telling their children to be honest if they themselves cheat and lie, knowing that example is a louder teacher. They avoid demanding courage from subordinates if they themselves cower, like a commander who won't do anything he orders his troops to do. The Stoics held themselves to high standards first and foremost. Modern life will frequently tempt us to sell out our principles in big or small ways. It could be as minor as laughing along with a prejudiced joke at a party to fit in, betraying your principle of respect, or as major as falsifying records at work because your boss pressured you, betraying honesty. The Stoic mindset would counsel, better to suffer the social awkwardness or even lose the job than to lose your integrity. Because jobs, parties, money, all come and go, but you have to live with yourself every single day. And the weight of knowing you compromised your ethics can be a far heavier burden than the external penalty for staying honest. Many people who have everything live tormented because they achieved it through corrupt means. Stoics, by avoiding that path, might occasionally face material loss, but they gain something priceless, a clear conscience. As the Latin saying that Stoics loved goes, mens sana in corpore sano, a healthy mind in a healthy body. Part of a healthy mind is knowing it's not sullied by shameful deeds. To avoid betraying your principles, first you must know your principles. Stoics regularly reflect on their core values. You might write down a personal code. I will be honest, I will be courageous, I will be kind, I will be fair. Then, when dilemmas arise, refer back to your code. This clarity makes tough decisions simpler, not easier emotionally but clearer. If honesty is a core value, then no, you won't lie on that report. End of discussion. Now you just figure out how to deal with the consequences of telling the truth. Another technique is negative visualization. Imagine the worst that might happen if you stick to your principles. Often, the fear of consequences is what tempts us to cheat or lie. But if you envision it, okay, if I refuse to lie for my boss, he might fire me. Can I handle that? Yes, I can find another job or tighten my belt for a while. What I can't handle is living in fear and dishonor every day if I go along with the deceit. By making peace with the worst outcome, you rob it of its power to coerce you. Stoics also consciously practice what they preach in small ways to build the muscle of integrity. If you extol fairness, make sure you're being fair in daily interactions. If you prize self-discipline, maybe take on small disciplines like waking up early or not indulging in junk food to train yourself to do what you've decided is right. rather than what is easy. These exercises strengthen your ability to do the right thing in bigger stakes situations. When you avoid betraying your principles, you might not get a medal, but you get something better: trust in yourself. You know that you can count on you to do the right thing. That self-trust is a form of confidence that no amount of external validation can give. Others around you will also come to trust and respect you. Your word will carry weight. As a Stoic, you become a person whose presence makes others feel that goodness is possible. Conversely, if you preach virtue but secretly wallow in vice, not only will others lose respect if they find out, but you will lose respect for yourself even if they don't find out. A true Stoic aims to be the same person in private as they are in public. This consistency is the opposite of hypocrisy. It's authenticity, and it radiates a quiet power. We see it in figures like Mr. Rogers, again, not a Stoic philosopher but famously genuine and principled. People gravitated to him because he was what he appeared to be, kind and compassionate through and through. In the end, living with integrity is the capstone of Stoicism. It ties all the previous points together. If you hold honesty and justice as principles, you'll naturally avoid gossip, greed, and deceit. If you value courage and authenticity, you'll avoid cowardly inaction and people-pleasing. The Stoic path is holistic. It's about becoming whole, aligning your beliefs, words, and deeds. So a Stoic avoids betraying their principles because to do so would be to fracture their very self. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." In the grand scheme, how others judge you, what you gain or lose, doesn't matter next to the state of your soul. So, in each moment, do the next right thing, steadfastly, and you will never be truly impoverished or alone. You'll be in the best of company, your own, with honor intact. We've journeyed through 7 key actions as Stoic sidesteps, each a stepping stone to a life of wisdom and strength. Let's briefly recap and then conclude our exploration with a call to action, a virtuous action, of course. You've now seen 7 actions a true Stoic would avoid at all costs, from complaining about fate, to craving approval, to freezing in fear, to explosive anger, to loose gossip, to greedy excess, and finally betraying one's principles. These are the pitfalls that Stoic philosophy trains us to rise above. By recognizing and avoiding these behaviors, we clear the way for the opposite virtues to shine: gratitude, confidence in self, courageous action, calmness, kind speech, contentment, and unwavering integrity. Picture yourself incorporating these lessons. You meet life's twists with acceptance instead of complaints. You steer by your internal compass, not the fickle winds of others' opinions. You act bravely when it matters, instead of regretting inaction. You master your temper and respond with reason. You speak of others as if they were present, with respect and fairness. You know what enough means, and find joy in simplicity and generosity. And above all, you live in harmony with your values, so that the face you show the world and the face you see in the mirror are one and the same: honest, honorable, and at peace. This might sound like a high bar, and indeed Stoicism is a lifelong journey. Even Marcus and Seneca admitted to stumbling. But the beauty of this philosophy is that every moment is a new chance to practice. Stoicism isn't about being perfect, it's about progress and practice. When you avoid these 7 toxic actions even once where previously you might not have, you've taken a step forward on the Stoic path. String together those steps, and you'll be amazed at the transformation in your mindset and life. Thank you for watching and reflecting with us today. If you found value in these insights, make sure to subscribe to Be Stoic for more deep dives into practical wisdom from the Stoics. Join our community of fellow travelers on this path of self-mastery and fulfillment. Give this video a thumbs up if it helped you, and let us know in the comments which of these 7 points resonated the most with you, or which one you plan to work on in your own life. Remember, Stoicism is not a dry, ancient doctrine. It's a living guide to the art of living. As you leave this video and go back into the world, carry these principles with you. The next challenge or temptation you face, smile to yourself and think, what would a true Stoic do here? Then act accordingly. You'll likely surprise yourself and inspire others. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Each of these 7 avoided actions, once overcome, becomes a gateway to growth. By not doing certain things, you make space for great things to take root. So here's to your Stoic journey. May you avoid what is ignoble, do what is noble, and in doing so, lead a life of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Thank you for watching 7 Actions a True Stoic Would Avoid at All Costs. Stay strong, stay virtuous, and until next time, be Stoic.